the reasons that we wrote the book is that over the last 20 years, at least in the US, and as I've gone around and talked about this in other places, it is the same in other nonprofit sectors, that there's been an explosion in the number of nonprofits. And there's also been an investment in growing these nonprofits more complex and bigger. But if we look out on the landscape and ask, have we really pushed the needle on social change? What's the answer? Not much. And what has happened is that we call these wicked problems. Do you use that term here in the US? I mean in the UK? Wicked problems. These are complex social problems that are changing, and they take a solution, takes many years to occur. But in order to solve those problems, it's grown beyond the scale of a single institution. So that's why the central thesis of the book, of the Network Nonprofit, is that nonprofits need to work less like isolated institutions and more like networks. You not only need to have a presence on Facebook, you need to do your work like you do like Facebook or a social network. So let me take this down a couple of pegs. That's the 50,000 mile high view. I'm going to take you down to about 20,000 foot view. And look at this in the context of a nonprofit organization. Okay, so here's a nonprofit that isn't networked, a non-networked NGO. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the staff behind the firewall in silos. Okay, we might have the IT department over here, not talking to the programming department over here. Or we might have the IT department as a communist regime. We have maybe fundraising here, not talking to marketing over here. So we have staff in their silos. We have the institutional logo and the firewall. And then we have the institution reaching in isolation to solve this problem. So that's what needs to change. From looking like that to that. Okay, but changing from that to that isn't as easy as changing from that to that. So let's take a look at what that is. So we have the staff behind the firewall working in cross-matrix teams. We have them reaching out to their professional networks. I was talking about this a couple weeks ago in Atlanta at the independent sector, and a young woman in her 20s, new in the nonprofit sector, said, they're blocking Facebook in my institution. The firewall won't let us use it, and that's like cutting off my arm, because that's the way I do my work, in connection with my professional colleagues. So we see staff members allowing to connect to one another inside the organization, as well as connecting to their professional networks. The institutional logo becomes a little bit more porous. The firewall starts moving a couple of inches, and it allows those insiders to get out and connect with networks of people and organizations to solve those wicked problems together. So as I said, going from that to that, it's not easy. It's not an easy step, because we're talking about change. Okay, so think about change in your personal life. Think about change. I'm going to start walking to work. I'm going to start, not buying bottled water. I'm going to stop eating chocolate. I'm going to stop yelling at my kids. I'm going to actually prepare for my next presentation. I'm going to improve my ability to write. Whatever it is, your personal goal for change, it's really hard to get started, isn't it? So magnify that if you're in an institution that's been around for how many years, 100 years, 50 years, and is used to working in a particular way. Change is even harder.